The last 4 weeks we've been in this series, I've been loving it. I don't know if it's been helpful for you guys. It's been helpful for me. And we just looked at don't. And we said little clever things like don't go to church, don't fix your marriage, don't join a gym, don't get organized. Today is don't save money. And we've just looked at the idea, like if you're going to win in 2019, like really, really win, and that's what we want for you. Like the last thing I want for your life is for you to get to the end of December 2019 and just say, that was a waste of time. You know, like that'd be terrible. Like that would be awful. Like none of you are sitting here saying, I hope this year's the worst year of my life. Like nobody says that. Like you're really hoping this year would be great, and I hope it's great for you too. And we're just saying, look, if it's going to be great for you, don't go to church. Don't go to church, but instead invite Jesus, walk with Jesus in every area of your life. In every area of your life. If you're going to win in 2019, don't join a gym. Don't join a gym. Instead, take on a holistic lifestyle where you begin to live healthily in body, mind, and soul within your life. We're saying 2019, like don't fix your marriage. Don't fix it. Instead, invest into your marriage. One of my favorite quotes of the whole series has been this: your marriage is not there to make you happy, it's there to make you holy. Your marriage is not about making you happy, it's about making you holy. And you're enrolled in the university of your wife or your husband, and you're earning a PhD in that, and you need to work at that. And you shouldn't be a C student this year, you should be an A student, okay? It's the one diploma where it does have your grades on it when you get it. It's not just your name, all right? We said, look, don't get organized, like don't have a calendar in your life, but instead, like last week, let's develop some healthy rhythms in our life of rest and work so that the byproduct of that is we actually produce the kind of fruit that God has for us. And then today, we're going to look at don't save money. Don't save money this year, but instead, let's steward the resources that God has given us well. Let's steward them well. How you and I steward what God has given us this year absolutely matters. So we just say if we integrate all those things, if we invite Jesus into our life in every area of it, if we're seeking to be healthy, mind, body, and soul, if we're investing into our marriage relationships, if we are married, investing into that, if we're having healthy rhythms that lead us to a productive life, and if we steward our resources well, hot dog, you guys, I think you can do it. I think that's a pretty good recipe that will set you up for the highs and lows of life. And let me just remind you, I was reminded of this week, that the highs and lows of your life this week, of your highs and lows of your life this year, like the valleys and the mountaintops, like don't judge those things as bad and good as much as to know that in the lowest of lows and in the highest of highs, God is developing you and me and our character in such a way that we can handle His dream for our lives. So the lows of your life is not the dream deferred, it's the dream defined. It's in the lows of your life that He's shaping you and my character into being the kind of person that can handle His big dream for our life. And so I just think if we integrate these things we've been talking about over the course of this year, we're just going to be set up to win. If you got your Bibles with you, I hope that you do, whether it's on your phone or in front of you. I like to have mine in front of me. I guess it's real too. It's on your phone. Anyways, whatever one you have, Luke 12 today. We're going to be looking at verses 13 through 21. While you're going there, I want to just put a couple things onto the table. A couple things on the table. I think there's an impulse in us that we get to a new year and we think, I like to save money. I want to save some money this year, and if I save some money, I can set myself up better for the future, for a rainy day, etc., whatever that may be. And I think there's just something inside of us, like we're all Boy Scouts, which is the motto to what? Be prepared. right? There's something inside of us, even if we're not a planner, even if we like to kind of fly by the seat of our pants a little bit, there's something inside of us where we say, it'd be nice to be prepared for if a rainy day comes. It'd be nice to be prepared for things that are in front of us. Now, in our flesh, though, and this is what I struggle with, I'm guessing sometimes you do as well, that I'll treat my finances kind of like my physical health, all right? And so I'll do that, but I won't adjust the way that I view my finances. So I'll make some superficial changes at the beginning of the year that don't stick. Have you ever done that with your resource? Get to a new year, you make some just like superficial changes to our money at the beginning of the year, but then they don't stick throughout the rest of the year. You get to the end of it, and it's like, I've made some of the same mistakes. I think one of the things that happens in our flesh is we don't see money as one of the resources that we've been given to invest and trade off of in our life to step into the life that God has called us to. So we have all kinds of different resources, all right? So you have spiritual resource in your life, spiritual capital. You have relational resource, relational capital. I mean, who hasn't benefited because you knew someone somewhere? Right? We have physical resource, physical capital, time and energy and health. We have intellectual resource. We have creativity, content, design, and we have financial resource. We have money and assets, that we have all of these things we have to use. And sometimes within, I think in our flesh, we don't see our money as a resource that God's given us for us to trade off of to actually step into the life that God has called us to. I think just one of the sin places of our culture is that we live in a culture that's based on credit. A culture that's based on loans, both short and long term. In other words, we have a culture of impulse that is addicted to instant gratification. That double cheeseburger tastes so good. You know, if I could, it might be hard to make that car payment, but man, it looks so nice the way I feel when have you ever ridden in a Tesla? Like, I halfway want to say it's from the Lord. It's incredible. I rode one for the first time this week ever, and I keep trying to get my car to do what it did, and it doesn't. But we live in a culture of impulse that's addicted to instant gratification. I'll never forget I got into college, and the first little envelope from Capital One that came. 0% interest. Like, 0% sounds good. Let me try that. Hey guys, let's go out tonight. I mean, I have no idea like what I even bought. And then you get another one, you know, free balance transfer. 0% interest. And then you just start playing that little game. And then one day, there are no more balance transfers left. And you, at least in my life, this is the way it happened. And you look at it and you're like, what do I do now? I mean, so I got to 30 and I'm like, I don't really know what all I bought. Looks like a lot. And, 41 now, and we've been working to get out of debt, and we're close. We're close, but man, our culture, we're just addicted to impulse and instant gratification. Here's an interesting thought. You probably know this. Jesus says more about money than he does heaven or hell. Isn't that interesting? I think it's this. I think Jesus knows the temptation for money to become what we worship. I mean, I love some money. Do you not love some money? I mean, when I look at my bank account on the day that I get paid, I'm like, hot dog, yes! I love it. I love it. And I think Jesus knows the temptation of money to become what we worship. It's why he says, look, it's not money that's evil. Like, it's the love of money that is the root of evil. I was in Atlanta this week for a couple days, and we were in Marietta. And we were riding to get to this church we were doing this little thing at, and these houses, oh my Lord. Like, one of them looked like the Great Wolf Lodge. Seriously. And I'm thinking, Daddy likes. And in my mind, I'm like, do you ever have a bad day walking out of that house? Like, is that possible? Could you ever have a bad day living there? It's just crazy. I mean, my heart just goes there. Well, Jesus, he tells a parable. It's a great little picture story of how we should view money, where money's not the goal, but it is a resource, and an important resource. We have a lot of others, but a resource that helps us to get to the goal. So it's not the goal, but it's absolutely a resource that can help us get to the goal. And so I want to just spend some time there today. So we're going to be in Luke 12, 13 through 21. All right. Now, someone in the crowd said to him, "Teacher, tell my brother to divide the inheritance with me." And people are always asking him these kinds of questions, and he never takes the bait. I love that about Jesus. He never takes the bait. But he said to him, "Man, who made me a judge or arbitrator over you?" And he said to them, "Take care and be on your guard against all covetousness, for one's life does not consist in the abundance of his possessions." Now, lots of times I don't believe that. Lots of times in my life, I actually think that my life consists in the abundance of my possessions. The more that I have, the better life I'll have. And so I just run after them. Like sometimes I think that's the formula. More stuff, better life. More stuff only multiplies the character that's already there. It's why the majority of people who win the lottery are in worse shape 5 years after than they were before it. More money is just going to multiply whatever's there. And he told them a parable saying, "The land of a rich man produced plentifully. And he thought to himself, 'What shall I do? For I have nowhere to store my crops.'" Like, I've got more stuff than I have space for. And he said, "You know what? I'll do this. I'll move into a new neighborhood, the one I've been thinking about for a while. I will tear down my barns and build larger ones, and there I will store all my grains and my goods. And I will say to my soul, 'Soul, you have ample goods.'" Wow, do I say this to my... Chad, you have ample stuff for your life. Years for you to relax, eat, drink, and be merry. You've made it. That Tesla was so nice. I'm just saying, you know. Like, that's how corrupt my heart is. I start believing this mess. But God said to him, fool, this night your soul is required of you, and the things you have prepared, whose will they be? In other words, you're not bringing any of it with you. I've done a bunch of funerals. Now, it's been nice not to do as many here at Crossroads as I've done previously. It's been a good thing. I don't want to do any this year, by the way, if anybody's getting any thoughts. But I've never once seen a U-Haul behind a hearse. Not one time. So is the one who lays up treasure for himself and is not rich toward God. So here we have someone saying, look, my brother was the firstborn and he got all of mom and dad's stuff. Now, Jesus, that's not fair. So you tell him, give me half of it. Like, he didn't choose to be first, and I didn't choose to be last. It just happened that way. So it's not fair. Tell him to give me half of it. And Jesus is like, let's talk about you, actually. Let's talk about you. And goes into this little conversation where he says, look, if your heart is just all about more and more and more and more, you get to take none of that with you. In other words, the goal is not having more stuff and building more things. There's nothing wrong with stuff. I'm going to get into that. There's nothing wrong with that. But the goal's not that. The goal is not to have more financial capital. The goal is, how do I use the resource that God's given me to actually make the life that he's calling me to? Because at the end of the day, the life God's calling you to, that is the legacy that you leave. That's the legacy that you leave. That's the thing that will outlive you. And so it'd be better to focus on making that kind of life and using your resource to build that legacy than to think that the goal of your life is just to have all the resource that's there. Jesus is saying this, I think. He's saying, you are not your own provider. Chad, you're not your own provider. You think you are, but you're not. You're not your own provider. You can lay up all the treasure you want, Chad, but guess what? You're still going to die. You're going to die. It doesn't matter how much treasure you have. There's no treasure that's going to keep you from that. More treasure doesn't equal a longer life. Let me say it that way. I mean, if it would, we should all be running after that. If more treasure equals a longer life, every one of us should be running after that. But it doesn't. More treasure doesn't mean a longer life. Money, as we see in the scripture, money is a resource, okay? Money's a resource. Just like spiritual capital, relational, physical, intellectual, money, financial capital is absolutely a resource, and it's to be used to step into the life that God is calling you to. And there is a life that God's calling you to this year. And if you mismanage your resource, it's going to be an obstacle to you to step into that life. Does that make sense? So, for example, if you're living beyond your means and you're in line at Harris Teeter and the person that's behind you is also in line, and the Lord says to you, I want you to pay for their groceries. And you say, okay, but I can't because I'm already in the red and I'm using a credit card right now to pay for my own. Like if we're living beyond our means, we're not going to be able to step into some of the stuff that God has for us this year. resource, financial resource, we need to rule and reign over it. Okay? We need to take authority over our resource and rule and reign over it, because it's very hard to follow Jesus and Jesus' leading if our money is ruling and reigning over us. Okay? How many of us would just say, you know what? My financial situation in my life right now is ruling and reigning over me. It is lording itself over me. It is pinning me down. Now, I want to say there's freedom from that, okay? But there's no easy fix. It does take some time. It is possible to get out of that and to begin to rule and reign over it. The first step is just kind of recognizing where you are in the midst of that. Here, Pastor Kyle said this week in our content meeting, and I just felt so good. We either have a life where we worship with our wealth or a life where we worship our wealth. Or maybe we have a life where we either worship with our wealth or a life where we're enslaved to our wealth. Might be a stronger way to say it. What I want is this. I want you to see money, I want you to see it as a part of the gift of life that's been given to you from God. And I want you to see it as a joy, as a responsibility that you have to steward well. In other words, the gift that I've received in money is a chance for me to represent the life that I've been given well. And so every item on your budget and all the ones that aren't there are all an investment. Every single one of them is an investment. So, if you look at your bank account from this past month, what are you investing into? What are you investing into? So, every month I invest into Lumbee Power. Every month. Every month I invest into Verizon Wireless. Every month. Every month I invest into Aldi and Walmart, and Amanda doesn't go to Harris Teeter that much because she's expensive, but I like it there. So I go there. I invest into Miss Brooke, who teaches softball to Cammie. What are all the places, everywhere that you and I spend money, that's an investment, places that we're investing into. And so I just want to say this morning. Don't save money, but instead steward what you've been given. Steward what you've been given. In other words, let's name the investments that we're making this year, and let's rule and reign over the resource that we have. I want to give you these are two thoughts that I think if you'll follow these, that you will absolutely rule and reign over your resource. So right here, don't save money, steward what you've been given and trusted this year. The first is live within your means. Live within your means. Now, the only caveat, and there have been very few moments, okay? Very few examples. There have been examples though, but very few of people that I've talked with that aren't able to make that work. Oftentimes when we're living outside of our means, it's because of choices that we've made. Okay? And so I just think it's important to live within your means. So you say, well, should I not have this car payment? Should I get rid of it? Yes. If you're living out of your means, yes, you should. I'm not saying it's easy, I'm just saying that's just simply yes. Does that mean I should not have this house? Can you live within your means in that house? Then yes. I just think if I'm not living within my means of what I can, it's going to rule and reign over me. And I've been there, and I'm sure some of you go, the weight of that. Like the weight of, oh my gosh, can we get through this month? All right? You got to live within your means. And then the second thing is prioritize your investments. Prioritize your investments. Where your first fruits go are important because it points to what you worship. I'm going to give you, this is like my kind of overarching budgetary plan of the way in which I think, I absolutely believe if you just follow this, you'll always live within your means, and you'll be able to create the life that God has for you, all right? Now, the first one is this, is 10% to God's economy. Now, I just have to say, it's super weird for me to say that to you guys because I'm a pastor of a church that you're sitting in and you pay me. So that's just a weird thing. Let's just go ahead and acknowledge that. For me to say, look, 10% to the church when you all pay me. Because there's that kind of whole like transactional, like whatever kind of thing happens, all right? So let's just acknowledge the weirdness of it. In fact, one of my bucket lists for my life plan is to flip my tithe. I would love to be at some point in my life where I can give 90% of what I make back to the church and not have to live off of it. I would love that because I just hate that whole deal that takes place. I'm super thankful for the way in which you guys love on me and my family, but that whole transactional piece, it just feels right? So I'm working on that. It's a bucket list thing, and I hope one day that works out. However, within that, one of the ways that I make sure, because I love some money, that it doesn't have my heart, is I realize that everything I've been given actually comes from the Lord, and I am called to worship Him with what I have in His economy, which is the church. And so those first fruits, that 10%, go there. It goes there. Second thing is this, 10% to your legacy, your future and the future of those you care about. Your legacy, your future, and your future that you care about. And then another 10% to your life today. Fun money. Fun money. And I just think, somebody gave me this formula a long time ago. If you can live off of 70%. Now, it might not be possible right now. I'm not telling you, I got to go do it. But if you could just say in my heart, in my mind, if I could get to where I could live, my expenses are 70% of what I make, I just think you're going to rule and reign over your resources. They are not going to rule and reign over you. They're not going to rule and reign over you. And so as you think about your life, as you think about your resource, where are you? Where are you? What would it look like? What would be a step in a direction of ruling and reigning over it? Because you can have like the whole, don't go to church deal figured out. You can be walking with the Lord really well. You can have the whole, I want to invest in my marriage. You can have the whole, I'm going to get healthy, holistic. You can have the whole, I'm going to have an integrated life. You can have all of that and know exactly what God's calling you to. But if the weight of your financial situation is bearing down on you, it can ruin your life. This is the stress of it. And we don't want that for you, okay? We don't want that for you. Now, anything that we can do to help you in this area, we'd love to. We have some amazing people here who have helped so many folks get out of debt through financial peace. We have so many stories of folks that can sit down, help you budget, make decisions, discern, all of that. At the end of the day, we want you to win on every front of your life, on every front of your life. And so if there's anything that I can do for our team, just let me know with that, okay?